Hello and welcome to Beyond the Continent. Here are stories making the headlines. I am Adebola Adeduba. Let's begin by telling you that the Israeli Defense Forces says it has killed Hezbollah commander in an airstrike in the southern Lebanese town of Ain Baal. A statement says Ismail Yusuf Baz oversaw the Lebanese Shia armed group's coastal sector. Hezbollah confirmed his death without providing further details of his rank or how he was killed. Lebanon's state-run national news agency also reported that one person was killed and two others were injured in an Israeli strike in Ain Baal on Tuesday. Hezbollah is funded, trained and armed by Iran and is designated a terrorist organization by Israel, the UK, US and as well as other countries. And to talk about this in detail, I am joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagan. Afia, the IDF says it has killed Hezbollah commander. What more can you tell us about this?
Yes, that's right. Breaking news in the past couple of hours that the Israeli Defense Force says it has killed this particular Hezbollah commander. It said that one of its aircraft struck and eliminated Ismail Yusuf Baz in the Ain Baal area of Lebanon. Now, he was a commander. He served as a senior official in several positions in Hezbollah's military wing. He said that he had also planned a rocket and anti-missile launches towards Israel from Lebanon's coastal area. That's according to the IDF. Now, shortly before this strike, Hezbollah said it attacked Israel's Iron Dome air defense units in the area of Lebanon, claiming that they scored direct hits and had killed or wounded their crew members. Quite a significant blow, actually, for Hezbollah to have this particular commander killed. And as we know, Israel and the IDF said that they will retaliate for the attacks leveled against them this weekend, most of which were stopped by the Iron Dome defense capability that I just spoke about that they had attacked. So this might be the beginning of Israel's retaliation to Iran's attack at the weekend. But rest assured, and Israel have said earlier on today that the attack will come in a method of their choosing at a time of their choosing. But this may just be the start of it.
The international pressure on Israel has shifted from last week. Is this with their advantage?
It is an advantage to Israel. I mean, this time last week, we were talking about the fact that Israel and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was under increasing pressure from President Joe Biden, from the UK, from different allies around the world about its attack on Gaza, about the humanitarian effects. But now that we have Iran sort of piling in and putting pressure and attacking Israel, even though Israel did kill one of their commanders and they should have known that this was coming, because that has happened, you had everybody joining in solidarity. I mean, you had the King of Jordan. Jordan has been a huge critic of Israel's stance over Gaza. But even they were part of the operation to down the projectiles heading for Israel. You had France, the UK, the US also joining in to defend Israel over the weekend. So for a couple of days at least, there's less headlines about Gaza and more headlines about the fact that Israel is under attack again. And yes, this is a positive for Israel, a positive for Benjamin Netanyahu. The pressure has released on him a little bit. It's now about defending an ally and less people talking about what's happening in Gaza. But that is going to be temporary, because when we see what Israel's response is to Iran's attack over the weekend, that pressure may just increase.
Away from that, Israel remains undeterred in their actions in Gaza. What do you see, or what can you say about this?
Yes, absolutely. Israel continuing that offensive in Gaza. Like I said, it may not be the top of the headlines because of what happened at the weekend with Iran, but it's still there. 800,000 people in Rafah still waiting to hear about that attack. Last week we had the attack was imminent, and 800,000 people will have to be displaced if that attack goes ahead. There's stories of people being treated in church pews. There's stories of neonatal units smelling of death and destruction along a border strip. A 1 kilometer strip along the Gaza border west of the armistice demarcation line. It's estimated that 3,000 out of 4,000 buildings have been destroyed and 33% of arable land has been damaged. That's according to the United Nations. So as I said, inadequate aid continuing to get into Gaza, not enough for people to be healthy, for people to get what they need. So the war continues and the humanitarian suffering in Gaza continues also.
Thank you so much for your insight on the news. Afia Hagen, our international correspondent. Thank you once again. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and her Jordanian counterpart Ayman Savadi say they want to prevent any further escalation in the Middle East following Iran's unprecedented attacks on Israel on April 13th. They made a statement during a press conference in Berlin. Savadi stressed that Jordan will not become a theater of war for any regional conflict and warned against allowing Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to use the opportunity to divert attention from Gaza.
Mit seinem gefährlichen Vorgehen erneut gezeigt, dass dem Regime nicht an Frieden in der Region gelegen ist. Im Gegenteil. Iran spielt mit dem Schicksal aller Menschen im Nahen und Mittleren Osten. Ich werde deshalb noch heute erneut zu Gesprächen nach Israel reisen. Ich werde unseren israelischen Partnern die volle Solidarität Deutschlands versichern. Und wir werden darüber sprechen, wie eine weitere Eskalation mit Zug um Zug mehr Gewalt verhindert werden kann.
كلنا ضد التصعيد. التصعيد خطر علينا جميعا وشهدنا التصعيد الخطير الذي تم قبل أيام ووقف التصعيد يتطلب وقف أسباب التوتر. إيران ردت على القصف الإسرائيلي لقنصليتها في دمشق وقالت إنها لن تذهب أبعد من ذلك وإنها لن تصعد أكثر. التحدي الآن هو أن نضمن أن رئيس الوزراء الإسرائيلي نتنياهو لا يرد ولا يصعد أكثر ولا يحاول أن يبعد الانتباه عن غزة وعما يجري في غزة للتركيز على المواجهة الإيرانية الإسرائيلية. نحن لن نكون ساحة حرب لأي صراع إقليمي ولن نسمح لأي كان أن يعرض أمن الأردن وأمن مواطنينا إلى الخطر. ومن هنا كانت رسالتنا واضحة إلى الجميع، إلى إسرائيل وإلى إيران، بأننا لن نسمح لكم بأن تحيلوا الأردن ساحة حرب.
Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Tuesday he had urged Xi Jinping to press ally Russia to end its senseless war in Ukraine, and the Chinese president had agreed to back a peace conference in Switzerland. Following the meeting with Xi at Beijing's Dayayuta State Guest House on Tuesday, Scholz said on X, formerly Twitter, that China's word carries weight in Russia. He added that Xi had agreed to back a press conference on the war in Switzerland. While China says it is a neutral party in the Ukraine conflict, it has been criticized for refusing to condemn Moscow and its offensive.
Ein zentrales Thema ist die Frage, wie es weitergehen soll mit den Entwicklungen, die durch den russischen Angriffskrieg auf die Ukraine ausgelöst sind. Dies ist ein furchtbarer Krieg, der mit unveränderter Brutalität seitens Russlands vorangetrieben wird. Deshalb ist es wichtig, dass für Deutschland klar ist, wie auch für viele der Freunde der Ukraine, dass wir die Ukraine unterstützen, so intensiv und so lange, wie das erforderlich ist. Und gleichzeitig, dass wir die diplomatischen Bemühungen, um die auch die Ukraine sich sehr intensiv kümmert, voranbringen. Ich halte das für einen Fortschritt, der notwendig ist, denn neben der militärischen Unterstützung der Ukraine durch Deutschland und seine Freunde und Verbündeten geht es eben auch um die Frage der Diplomatie, und das ist das, was gegenwärtig im Mittelpunkt steht.
U.S. President Joe Biden made a fresh plea to Congress to pass aid for Ukraine during a visit by Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala on Monday, as a fight brews about whether it should be linked to funds for Israel. Biden hailed the Czech leader as a great ally for his strong support for Ukraine since Russia's 2022 invasion, including securing nearly 1 million rounds of ammunition for Kyiv as U.S. funding dries up. After shaking hands with Joe Biden in the Oval Office, Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala thanked the U.S. president for his leadership in mustering Western support of Kyiv.
Mr. President, I appreciate your leadership in support of Ukraine. We are also doing our best to help Ukraine and to stop Putin's aggression. In 1968, I was a little boy. In 1968, I saw Russian tanks in the streets of my town, and I don't want to see this again. So we must continue to support Ukraine as long as possible. That is the reason why we started Czech Ammunition Initiative. It will provide Ukraine with hundreds of thousands of artillery shells very soon. It will happen in next few weeks and months.
On the continent, let's take a short break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying tuned. Brussels authorities on Tuesday ordered a shutdown of a controversial gathering on hard-right European politicians after it was targeted by online protesters and bombed from its first two choices of venue. Keynote speakers at the National Conservatism Conference include the Eurosceptic populist Nigel Farage and Britain's former Interior Minister Suella Braverman, and on day two, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Farage's morning speech went ahead despite swelling rumors the event was about to be shut down, followed by Braverman, who took the stage despite police entering the venue to notify organizers of a ban. Emil Kerr, mayor of the Brussels district of St. Joe's, where the hotel venue is located, confirmed on Facebook he had issued a ban in order to ensure public security.
And I'd like to say that it's really good to be back in Brussels and that things have improved, but clearly they've actually got rather worse. What has happened over the course of the last 48 hours is simply monstrous. This is national conservatism. There are people coming on this platform over the course of these 2 days representing political parties that will top the polls in their country in the European elections of June this year. If anything ever said to me that Brexit was the right thing to do, that leaving this place, regaining our national sovereignty, even if we could have carried it out better, that recognizing that you cannot be an independent, democratic, self-governing nation state and a member of this monstrous union with its ideology behind it, today has told me, I should never forget it, we were right to leave. No question.
Many of today's speakers are respected leaders in their fields. Many of us have been democratically elected, and many of us give voice to the millions of people who live in the UK and on the European continent. If only the globalists in Brussels put as much energy into securing our borders as they did trying to gag conservatives, maybe our continent would be in a healthier state.
To the street, Georgian capital of Tbilisi, to protest a controversial foreign influence bill that critics say mirrors repressive Russian legislation used to silence dissent. A former Soviet republic, Georgia has sought for years to deepen relations with the West, but the current ruling party is accused of trying to steer the mountainous Caucasus nation towards closer ties with Russia.
როცა სტრატეგიულ პარტნიორები გვეუბნებიან, რომ მიუღებელია, რაღაც არ არის რიგზე, ჯერა რომ აი უაზრო ყოყოჩინობის ადგილი არ არის და ყულია დღეს რაც მოხდა პარლამენტის კომიტეტზე ის არის გამოძახილი ქართველი ერის და გამორიცხულია რომ რუსული კანონი გავიდეს უბრალოდ ეს ვერ მოხდება
გარემოს არა რუსულ კანონს ეს არის ჩვენი ფუნდამენტური არჩევანი რაც ჩვენმა ქვეყანამ გააკეთა ძალიან დიდი ხნის წინ რომ ჩვენ ვართ ევროპა ვირჩევთ ევროპას და რაც არ უნდა მოხდეს რა ვინც არ უნდა იყოს ჩვენს ხელისუფლებაში არ დავუშვებთ რომ დაგვაბრუნოთ რუსეთში.
A new operation to combat insecurity, substandard housing and illegal immigration has begun in the French-Indian Ocean archipelago of Mayotte. The operation involves 1,700 gardains and police officers for 11 weeks, 1 year after the controversial Wambushu operation. Mayotte, a French archipelago in the Indian Ocean, located between Madagascar and the Mozambican coast, is a remnant of the French colonial past. Historically, Mayotte belonged to the larger archipelago composed of 3 main islands. In 2022, the data showed that more than 32,000 people, including 3,000 children, were detained there and more than 26,000 were deported from the center, mainly to other islands in the Comoros archipelago.
Pour augmenter les reconduites des étrangers en situation irrégulière vers les pays africains des Grands Lacs, et avec le soutien du ministre des Armées Sébastien Lecornu, dont chacun sait l'engagement pour nos territoires ultramarins, les Mahorais pourront compter sur le soutien de nos armées. 6 opérations terrestres militaires, dites Nefila, seront menées avec la mobilisation des militaires et une section de 30 hommes. 2 vedettes côtières de la gendarmerie maritime assureront une permanence en mer. Un bâtiment de la marine sera mobilisé dans le canal du Mozambique en haute mer pour bloquer la route des Grands Lacs. Le retour à l'ordre passe aussi par les airs et un avion civil multipliera les heures de vol au-dessus de l'île et au large de nos côtes. Au total, Mayotte Place Nette représente donc un engagement d'environ 1700 femmes, hommes, policiers, gendarmes et militaires qui seront mobilisés sur le terrain pour mener à bien ces opérations. C'est un ratio sans commune mesure avec ce qui est fait en Hexagone. Cela représente un gendarme pour 350 habitants à Mayotte contre 1 pour 1000 dans l'Hexagone.
South Korea on Tuesday marked the 10th anniversary of the country's worst maritime disaster when hundreds of school children died after the overloaded seawall ferry capsized and sank. The disaster and the botched rescue efforts dealt a crushing blow to the then president, Park Geun-hye, who was eventually impeached in 2017, and the tragedy remains divisive and politically sensitive in the South Korea even now. A Coast Guard vessel took some of the victims' families to the site of the sinking early Tuesday for a special ceremony. At the site of South Korea's south coast, marked by a yellow buoy, the families called out the names of the deceased and threw flowers into the water, followed by a moment of silence.
10년이 지난 지금도 그렇고 100년이 지나도 그 마음은 아픈 마음은 똑같을 것 같아요. 어느 누구나 할 것 없이. 앞으로 현 정부나 앞으로 이제 책임자들은 더 내 자식이다 생각하고 이제 하면서 또 나라에서 이런 일이 일어나지 않게끔 더욱더 내 몸만 살이고 내 주변만 살리는 게 아니라 전부 국민이 내 자식이다 생각하고 일을 해줬으면 좋겠습니다.
그때 생각해 보면 가슴이 아프죠. 왜냐하면 10주기 맞이하면서 계속적으로 강조하는 건 안전에 대한 그리고 생명에 대한 사회적 책임, 정부의 역할에 대한 강화가 좀 필요하지 않을까 이런 생각이 들어요.
Australian police on Tuesday said a brutal knife attack during a live-stream church service was a religious-motivated terrorist act as they urged calm from the angered local community. 2 people were stabbed when a 16-year-old suspect rushed the dais at the Assyrian Christian Church in Western Sydney late on Monday, slashing wildly at the bishop who was given a sermon. The bishop was stabbed in the head and chest and taken to the hospital. The attacker was immediately subdued by outraged congregants and later taken into police custody. Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese followed the attack and called for the country to unite. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Adebola Adeduba.